Hello and welcome to CAD Draws number 3. This video will feature the Console Wars comic I drew for September 29th, 2014. This video has been sped up by 2,500%. As always, the first step here is to lay down the dialogue. Now, if you compare what you see here to the final released comic, you will find some differences. At this stage, I'm really only trying to approximate where the word balloons will fall so that I can make sure that no important art will fall underneath them later. So I lay out the flow and structure of the panels, who says what and where, while still allowing myself the opportunity to fine-tune specific dialogue as needed later on. The Console War comics are really fun to write. The concept was initially born out of poking fun at the way media portrays the release of a new generation of consoles, and even more so kind of at the ridiculous fashion in which gamers leap to defend their console of choice in various comment sections around the internet. Certainly the console manufacturers are, quote, fighting each other for sales, but there's zero cause for gamers themselves to be at war this way. We gain nothing positive if one console actually wins, and in fact that would be pretty terrible for the industry as a whole. So I can only believe it boils down to a need to sort of justify and validate the purchase of whichever console a particular user chose. Someone has to feel like they made the right decision, and they accomplish that by telling anyone who made a different decision that they're wrong, and often stupid for doing so. However, as silly as all that is, it did get me thinking about the idea of an actual war between the three consoles, and so this ongoing story was developed. It's a concept that is entirely carried by the metaphors it employs, but it's also a fun way to look at the industry in sort of a different context. It's also, I think, one of the most frustrating storylines to draw, just from a technical standpoint. So the look of each console's faction was pulled really from the design language of the consoles themselves, but that also means a lot of straight lines, and it's constantly tempting to use the line tool to create these characters. I refrain because I want the characters to feel organic and imperfect, and using rigid lines and perfect angles would accomplish the exact opposite of that. The other problem I run into is the differentiation of each soldier. Without things like hair, noses, or even clothes, it can become very difficult to make each soldier look unique for storytelling purposes. So more than once I've sat down and really considered just changing the designs altogether to facilitate this, but at the same time I also hate the idea of just abruptly changing how everything looks 30 pages in. So instead, what I do, I do what I can with facial hair and scars and the various packs and straps and accessories that they carry. But this is also one of the reasons a typical squad in this universe is very small, often 3 soldiers or so. Not only is that a good number for conversational dynamics, but I can reasonably make them all look different from each other. So I'm approaching this particular arc within the console wars from the perspective of the Xboxes. The holidays are always a busy period for video games, and there are always a ton of releases coming out, and it's a big time for console sales. Up to this point, obviously the PS4 has had a very healthy lead sales-wise, so I took a look at what each of the consoles was coming into the holiday season with. In the grand scheme of things, the exclusives are really the only thing that set these consoles apart from each other. A game running at 720p or 900p on the Xbox versus 1080p on the PS4 gets a lot of headlines in the media and on forums, but for me personally, it doesn't mean shit. You might be able to find some quality differences comparing screenshots side by side on your computer monitor, but sitting 4 to 6 feet away from your television, those differences really don't mean much. I would probably never notice the difference, and I really doubt most people would, so that's kind of a wash. 90% of the games are multi-platform, so that's a wash. So it really comes down to the exclusives, which are the big guns here. Now, the PS4 has Drive Club and Little Big Planet lined up for the holidays, Drive Club looks pretty good. Little Big Planet, you know, it's a great franchise, but I really don't think that it has the same draw that it used to. Meanwhile, the Xbox is coming in with Forza, which at the very least matches Drive Club in genre, but also Sunset Overdrive, their Halo collection, which includes, I guess, access to whatever the next Halo game is, like a beta test or something, the Fable Legends beta, and I guess they even scored some exclusive stuff for Dragon Age Inquisition, which looks like it's going to be a pretty big game in itself. So it feels to me like this is the Xbox One season to sort of close the sales gap a bit. You know, will it happen? I have no idea, but that's sort of why I've approached this arc, and I've structured this arc the way I am. So right now, what we have is the X-Bones. You know, they're gearing up for this big strike behind enemy lines, and I'm laying the groundwork for that mission now. And then what'll happen is come next month, after Sunset Overdrive has been released, you know, I'll know what the reviews look like, I'll know what sales look like, I'll know whether it was a big success or a dud for Microsoft, and then I can write the outcome of this mission accordingly. So I'll wrap it up this week by answering a quick question from last week's video comments. XX Tauna asked if the Ethan/Lucas reboot will completely ignore all previous storylines, and the short answer to that is yes. It is a completely fresh start. However, I've also made the blog post info dump regarding the reboot that I talked about in last week's video, and you can find that on the front page today. Hopefully that'll answer most of the questions on this topic. And that's it. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next week and make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel and all that other YouTube crap.